Good evening, everyone. Come in and take your seats. Well, it's good to see you people braving the rain tonight and coming in. Good spring weather, isn't it? I just had some news from friends in Alaska who say they're ready for the winter. And I'm thinking, well, I think we're still in winter here. But the good times, the warm will come, I'm sure. Well, welcome everybody, and good to see you here. This is CPS and the Christchurch Photographic Society. I met one young man who's just arrived tonight for the first time. Welcome to you, and as a visitor, I hope you enjoy the evening. Do we have any other visitors here? And the rest of us are members, right? Hi, Maxine, good to see you. So, first of all, please, the exit is over there where that person's just gone, if we need to go out the exit door, and of course out the way we came in. The loos are out that way too, if you haven't. The loo, yes. And that's out that way. The phones, if you've got them, please turn them off and put them away so the screens can't be seen, because it's really annoying for other people sitting around you if you're looking at something, even if it's silent, when we just want to be concentrating on the screen. I have a thanks for Diana Andrews tonight. She's given me some printouts that she's put together of a competition that's coming up. Well, actually, competitions that have been for the year, the national competitions, other than the CPS competitions. And this is for the most successful national exhibitor. So this is an opportunity for you, if you have had images that you've put into the likes of the Dunedin Photographic Salon, Laurie Thomas, Wanganui Salon, and there's a few more here. If you've done that, there is a wonderful trophy that we have, the Ron Williams Trophy, which has been designed by Ron, a member of this club, to acknowledge the efforts of one of our members in these competitions per year. So if you're one of those and you've got a few awards, please take one of these, fill it out, have it ready. Diana, would you like them to bring it back next time, or email it to you? Bring it or email it. When do you need it by, Diana? Okay, so you've got a month to sort yourself out on where your awards came from, and I'll just put these down the front here for you to gather up later. You only need one if you're interested in that. So the rest of the notices. First of all, I'll just outline the program. So we're going to have MDC, which is our monthly digital challenge, showing tonight, and then we're going to have the Natural History PI results. That's a digital selection of photographs. But before we do that, I've got a few more notices. So Wednesday, October the 4th, there is no RCC. We won't be able to be in here, so there is a meal being planned at 6:30 p.m. More details on that, you have had an email. If you haven't had an email about that, ask us after the show. October the 11th is the C grade digital and print results. That's always something neat to watch and come to. Again, in October the 18th, Ian Walls is going to be talking about building blocks of visual design. That's at the 7 o'clock session. And the 8 o'clock session on that same night is the number 9 digital results. So there's only one more after that. We have 10 digital competitions each year. And from those, we always get so many comments to be able to improve our our artwork and our image making. Closing soon, the 27th of September, which happens to be today, is the print. So if you have got your print in that box over there by the end of tonight, then it'll be included in this competition. Remember, please, if you're new in the club, you must put a copy of that print digitally onto the website with your name, under your name, your history. On the 30th of September, MDC is due, and that's Mix It Up this month. On the 4th of October is another PI, the very last digital image for the year, and the 11th of October is the digital salon. And that salon, is it still 4 that you're able to put in each? Yes, I think it has been historically 4 images digitally that you put into the salon, and it's designed so that you can put new images that you haven't put in a competition yet, just to give them a bit of a test, because that night is always a fun night here. We put them up on the screen and we have live judging down here or over there, and you get to see if your image is likely to get a high mark with a judging panel, which gives you an idea if you think, oh, maybe I might do something else with it next year, changes, or it's going to have flying colours and I'll put it in a competition next year and it's likely to be in the awards category. It's likely, not definite, because you never know. So I would like to thank Diana Andrews, actually, for putting all this information on our emails, because she's done a great job this week of running right through till the end of the year, which is getting very close. So before we look at our program, Ian's got a couple of things to say. Would you like to come up now?
Thanks, Joe. Some elaborations on what Joe's just said, but the first thing I want to do is say thanks to Dennis for that awesome presentation or thing that we did before, and it's just like a new idea that we kind of want to run with, and that was like the first example of it, and that's what we're talking about with showcases. One of the things we've talked about in the past that people gain out of putting images into competitions is to get an audience, really, to get it out and show people, and this is another way of doing it. This is another way of showing some images without the sort of competitive side of it, because I've always felt that competitive art's a bit of a weird thing anyway. So that is something we're going to move along with. There's a couple more we're going to do before the end of the year. The first one is Pinhole, and that's going to be shown on the last night, which I think is the 22nd of November, whatever, something like that anyway, towards the end of November, the last show night. And so those of you who have Coke cans strapped to your guttering or the tree or whatever it is, I'll get Stuart to put out those instructions again. I know he put them out one time, but they get kind of buried in the Facebook feed, so we'll put it all out again, probably send an email with an instruction on how to turn your beer can into a picture. And so what I'd like you to be thinking about in those last couple of weeks through the middle of November is, how do I get that picture out of the beer can and onto the website? I'd also like those of you who've got digital pinhole cameras to be out there using them and sticking a couple on there. So same deal as we have with the other showcases. You can put 4 images up each, and we'll just have the same sort of a longer session that we had tonight with the travel. That won't always be the case with these showcases. Sometimes they're just showing a bit of a cross between MDC, and that's what we're going to do with the other one. And for those of you who went to Ferg's Square in the city walkabout the other day, I hope you've made some square pictures. We've put another showcase up for Square there, and so I can just encourage everybody, and if you don't in the next few days, I'll be hassling you to do so, put up some Square images in that. And what we'll do with that is something similar to the MDC, and we'll just run it as a slideshow. So it'll be something that'll take 5 minutes at the start of another session, but it'll just be a series of squares, Square images that we had the other day. It was a great walk around, and something useful came out of it. So that's just an expansion of where we're going with these showcases. A couple of other things. Joe talked about the fact that I'm doing this, what do I call it, the introduction to building blocks of visual design. There's 2 7 o'clock sessions in a row. I'm doing the first one and John Suckling's doing the second one. He was going to do 2, but he kind of said he didn't want to do any, but I talked him into doing 1 if I did the other one. So this is they're going to be a sort of a 2 half-hour session rehash of the course we did a few years ago about making better images. Anybody here went to remember the making better images thing? There's a handful of you. So we did that over a whole weekend. We're going to do it in 2 7 o'clock sessions. So it's going to be brief, but it'll be something along those lines. There was something else I thought of when you talked about, but I can't remember what it was.
You'll just have to make it up.
I will make it up. I usually make most things up.
Anything here?
Nah, can't remember. Oh, yes, I remember the digital salon. Again, we're just going to do this. You'll remember from the digital salon of last year, we showed all the pictures and then all the scores happened. And then there was a period of time where John was battling with the computer to get some results. We're going to give John a bit of a better tack at that this time by going and have a cup of tea. So we're going to start the whole digital session at 7 o'clock. So it'll be the whole evening. You can treat it as a sort of an activity evening. So we'll do the digital salon starting at 7, and that'll go for as long as it goes for. And then we'll have a cup of tea, and John can battle with the computer again. And then we'll have the sort of prize giving thing at the end of that. So that's slightly different to last year. So, but that'll happen. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Yes. Yes, I will. Thanks, Ian. That's great, filling that out. Now, the images tonight, the ones that you've put in the box, are they for this competition tonight? They're not your historic award-winning ones that you've had awards for. Am I right? Yeah, because we will collect the ones that you've already got awards for the final night, but we're not collecting them tonight. So has anyone had a mix-up there, or you're all good? Great, you read Diane's email. Great. Okay, so let's go back to the program now. That's a lot to take in, isn't it? We're a very busy club and such a lot going on, which is a good thing. So first of all, let's have a look at the MDC AV that John's made. Thank you. And it's all about repetition. a lovely surprise. Come on up, John.
Thank you, Joe. Evening, everybody. We had a good number of entries, as you'll see, 30 entries this month. It was really good. It's not the highest number we've ever had, but it's the highest we've had this year, that's for sure. Thank you to Adrienne for adjudicating, selecting the competition, and congratulations to Joe Curtis, who happened to win, and I've got a strawberry chocolate fish for her.
A real chocolate fish.
A real strawberry chocolate fish. And Joe, if you can just pick a number between 1 and 7, please. 6. And then a number between 1 and 30. 15 makes it success.
Success.
Success. I don't think we've had success, have we, recently? No. All right, success it is for next month.
Catching a fish.
Indeed. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, John. Thanks, Adrian. I haven't had one of these for years. Okay, so that's a wonderful surprise. And I did notice how many images were there, and it's great that we're taking part in our MDC, which is a fun thing we do. And remember, each image has to be made this month, or the month, you know, of the show. So now I've got to introduce the next part of our evening, and I'll pass this over to JK because he's going to introduce the judge and the speaker and the next part of the program. So, JK.
Thank you, Joe. Tonight we have the third projected image for natural history, and there are 37 images, and the judge has accepted 19 of them, which is about 51%. And the judge for this competition is Irene Callahan. I will ask Nicola to read her bio and follow with a comment.
Pardon? Oh, yeah. Thank you. Okay, this is a short bio from Irene. Just a few words this time, as I have judged for you not long ago. I have been an accredited judge since 2017. I love looking at your work, and hopefully my remarks are helpful. I have recently resigned from our committee so I can both mentor more members and actually do some photography myself. All those hard-working people in your club will identify with how much time club business can take up, sometimes with very little thanks. So a big shout out to all of those busy people who keep the club running smoothly. My hill climbing days are now over, so recently I've had to work out the best I can to continue to enjoy my photography. I found I needed to get more creative, to find interesting subjects and photograph them. I had to use my brain more and my legs less. Hopefully, I will see one of two of your members at Lower Hutt. Please introduce yourselves. Irene. These are her comments for our competition for this Natural History PI3. Thank you for asking me to critique your nature images. I really enjoyed your images, and there were many of a very high standard. The images that have scored well tend to be images that show some natural behaviour of the subject you have chosen. Those who spend time studying these subjects will soon be able to anticipate what branch they might land on with that juicy crab. About 2/3 of the images were birds. Good images are not down to just good luck, but can be the product of many hours patiently waiting for that perfect moment. You not only become used to the behaviour of your subject becomes used to you being in their territory. I found the lighting was very bright in some images. In others, some subjects were stationary and sitting in the middle of the image. A small crop of one side in some cases would have made the image far more dynamic. Congratulations to those who have done well this month, and I hope my critique of your images will be helpful. Irene. Yep. Gull feeding frenzy at Birdling's Flat. The mass of squabbling seagulls are fighting over something at the edge of the tide line. I like the aqua colour of the sea at the top of the image, and the movement of the gull's wings, so close together, creates a feeling of urgency. The blur of both sides of the images feel as though it may have been added in post, and if this is the case, this is not allowed in nature photography. Brighter day ahead. A moody image which has a very slight slope on the horizon down towards the right. I feel this image does not fit well within the definition of nature unless there is more emphasis on the cloud or land formations. If considering the subject as a cloud subject, then lower the horizon line and make these the main feature of the image, the name of the type of clouds, or describe the formation you see. The tui. The tui is posed looking back into the negative space to the left of the image. The image has been tightly cropped at the bottom of the image, and then more room is needed beneath the tail. The white throat tuft is well exposed, and there is a small catchlight in the eye. However, the breast and the tail feathers are heavily shadowed. Matuku moana white-faced heron. This white-faced heron has caught a small crab which is reflected in the water. The light appears to be rather bright on both the water and the back of the bird. Birds will mainly feed on the incoming tide when crabs are tempted out of their holes. Planning for the light to be kinder later in the day or early in the morning may need checking the tide charts before leaving home. Royal spoonbills, kotuku ngātu papa. These birds not only appear to have a comical appearance, they could be very amusing to watch. The bird on the left obviously wants to land on the log already occupied by the other two birds. Good timing has caught the action, and a group of three create a stronger image. However, the action has created a rather confusing scene. I would suggest you expose for the white feathers, or the lightest area in your image, and lighten the shadows later in processing. The light is rather bright here, and the feathers are overexposed. South Island robin. The robin is positioned sitting amongst the growth of the forest floor or log. I find he is quite central in the image, and he is looking to the left. I would advise a crop on the right side to place him more on the right third. Getting down lower so he is level with the camera will give a stronger perspective. The shadows are rather dark on the left side as he is standing in the patch of sunlight. Raindrops on pebbles. An interesting concept that made me think hard about what I am expecting to see as a nature subject. I liked the repetitive patterns of the darker raindrops on the rocks. Titles can be scientific or descriptive. However, you may have been able to identify the type of rocks these were. Variable oyster catcher. The oyster catcher is probably intent on keeping his find to himself as he runs away. Space has been allowed for him to run into, and I like that he has one leg raised as he sprints along. The shadows tell me the sun is bright, and this has obscured some feather details in the shadows. Our eye tends to go to the brightest area, and the bright sand fights with the subject for my attention. New Zealand kingfisher, furry meat. This kingfisher is very central in the image, so consider placing the eye on one of the thirds and the crop in so the bird is more prominent in the frame. In a nature image, I try to photograph a subject sitting on a natural branch rather than a man-made structure. It can require much patience and time spent watching your chosen subject. If you wish to capture a bird catching prey or exhibiting other natural behaviour, those who spend this time are rewarded with the wow image that is hard earned and not just lucky shots. Score 2. Glossy ibis, Placardus falconinalis. The plumage has a good range of tone and definition, and there is a small catchlight in the eye. The ibis is possibly sitting on eggs amongst the nest of sticks and leaves. The bright area at the top of the image is taking my attention from the subject, and I would have liked to have seen the tail included in the image, as I feel it is cropped a little too far back. This image feels rather static, with the bird sitting very quietly. Shag. This shag is in a central position in the image and stands on a rock with the wind ruffling his feathers. I would advise patiently observing their natural behaviour so you are able to capture some type of activity. Shags will often sit with their wings spread to dry in the sun. A bird sitting inactively is not capable of engaging our attention for very long. A flying Iomedeia excellens, Gibson's albatross. The adult wandering albatross skims across the waves, almost touching the water with its wings tip. A little more room has been allowed for the bird to fly into, although a small crop on the right side would emphasise this even more. A little known fact is that an albatross can smell food in the water from 12 miles away. The whites are well exposed with the background and even shade, and I can even see the small pink area behind the ear, which lets me identify it. A little more sharpness would be desirable, I feel. Canada goose, Branta canadensis maxima. This is a female paradise shell duck. The male is darker with a black head, and chicks have attractive black and white patterned feathers. They will mate for life, and the behaviour seen here is the typical aggressiveness of a duck defending her territory or her ducklings. The black and russet pattern of the feathers is attractive. However, I find the crop a little too tight. Clavarioid fungi. These fungi are commonly found among pine trees and are often called coral fungi. This is a well-formed specimen taken from a low perspective. The depth of field is slightly narrow, which limits what is in focus. I recommend at least f8 to f11 or more, and using a tripod and cable release to keep the image sharp. Having a little more distance between the camera and the fungi will show us more of the natural environment that surrounds it. My eye is attracted by the small stick on the right, which would have been better removed before photographing the fungi. Odea miscellalia australis at the Boyle River. This image illustrates both immature and mature fungi within this grouping. The gills are well displayed, although the caps are mostly hidden from view, as is common with images of this fungi. Exposure is good, However, a little more depth of field is needed. I recommend a tripod if one was used. I am pleased that the photographer has shown some restraint when gardening the image and has not removed all the dirt clinging to the fungi. Buller's albatross. These are beautiful birds. The water is calm, with attractive patterns marking the surface. The bird feels rather central in this image, but has been allowed some space on the left to look into. I believe a crop of about half the water at the base would strengthen the composition. The bird is not active, and consequently the story is not as strong enough to gain a higher score. White-fronted terns, Sterna striata courting behaviour. The courting behaviour shown by the passing of the small fish is great to see. The crop feels tight at both sides as their tails are close to the edge of the image. My eye is distracted by this tension and keeps leaving the image. The white feathers are well exposed, although there is a slight green tint you could manage in colour management. The image is very close to an acceptance, and I am hoping you have more room at the sides of your raw file for a future competition. Coot. The coot is swimming amongst the pondweed. This view shows the short, stubby tail at the rear, and the head is turned on a nice angle to show the red eye and white beak. A coot can be rather brutal with its young, killing them if food is short. This is a rather static image that does not show very much natural behaviour, but is well cropped. This is the first of the acceptances, score 3, silver eye, tailhowl. The silver eye is illuminated by even lighting and stands out well against the simple background. Perched among leaves which flow from left to right on a diagonal angle, he looks towards the negative space. The feathers appear to have lost some detail, which may be caused by noise reduction in post-production, but the eye appears to be sharp. A good composition, but the story is rather static. Praying mantis, Orthodora novazelandiae. The praying mantis is placed on a nice angle, sitting on the dahlia, and is well cropped with enough room around her so she does not look too crowded in the frame. I am pretty certain this one is a female, as I believe that is a developing egg sac below her abdomen. The males have a long, skinny abdomen. This image is sharp and well exposed, but requires the mantis to exhibit some interesting behaviour to take this image to the next level. Crested caracara with squirrel. This is something I've not seen before, and an interesting subject. The talons of the crested caracara look pretty long and lethal, and his beak looks large and powerful. The squirrel it is holding onto looks big enough to keep a whole family fed if he could be persuaded to share it. I appreciate that the crop shows the environment, and I like the angles of the curved branch. Yet I would have liked to be closer to the action. I find the log takes my attention from the subject because they are the brightest part of the image. Sacred kingfisher, Kotari in the breeze. The kingfisher is presented with ruffled feathers, blown by the wind, and a nice catchlight is shown in his eye. The branch flows well across the image, and the kingfisher sits on the right third. The image is well composed, but rather static, and patience may be rewarded if you watch the kingfisher over time. They often fly back to their favourite branch, returning with the crab. Southern crested grebe fighting for mate. The two males fight aggressively as they challenge for the female, who watches and awaits the outcome. I have appreciated that this is an image that shows some action. The reflection does not appear to add to the story as it is partially cropped. A crop of half the reflection remaining, plus a little from both sides, would bring us closer to the action. The female at the back appears outside the area of focus. However, I'm not too worried about this as the story is strong. Pair of African ostriches, Strathurocamelus namibia. These two ostriches appear to be viewing us closely, just as we are viewing them. I can see something that looks a little like eggs on the ground behind them, but they may just be stones. The dry, grassed environment that chicks used to hide from any predators is shown. I like the lower perspective to show you are looking upwards at the two birds. However, it would be desirable to show some activity. Damselfly in the UK, banded demoiselle. I can't read that part, sorry, male. The banding on the wing is clearly shown, and this indicates it is the male damselfly found in the UK. Sharpness falls off towards the tail end, but the eye, head and wings are shown in good detail. The iridescent blue and the green shades are vividly portrayed, and I like the dynamic angle of the damselfly as it sits on the leaves at the base of your image. The bright leaf in the background is distracting. South Island robin, Kakaruwai. This robin appears to be keeping an eye out for any bugs to eat. I like the room that has been allowed in front of the robin for him to move into. The depth of field has kept most of the robin in focus while blurring the background nicely. The timber the robin is standing on looks like it has been shaped by man rather than being a natural branch, which is preferable in nature photography. Thales latuus. This wide-angle view is an unusual and bold presentation that shows us the natural environment the fungi are growing in. I feel, however, that the strong light coming through the trees in the upper half of the image has overwhelmed this beautiful fungi you have discovered. I would advise returning next year to the same place and retaking this image, as fungi often fruit in the same location. A blue sky combined with an ND filter to balance the light would be worth waiting for. Keep looking for alternative ways to display your subjects. Fur seal pup, Arctocephalus forster. Your low viewpoint has presented this curious young seal looking down from his perch on the textured rock. The crop has framed the seal well, and the background is out of focus and complements the subject. Baby seals are cute, but tend to be overrepresented as nature subjects. For an image to score more highly, I feel they need to be photographed exhibiting some natural behaviour, which would add interest to their story. Kururu, score 4. I am attracted to the vividly coloured feathers which show up well against the green foliage. The kururu is likely feeding on the white blossom of the cabbage tree, and to capture him with some blossom in his beak would have added another layer of information to your story. The crop brings us close to kururu and shows us good detail in the feathers and the sharp eye. Score 4. White heron's catch of the day. Sharp detail is shown in the heron's eye, and the tight crop allows us to have a good view of the head and beak, including the freshly caught fish. The well-exposed heron is presented against a dark background, and I enjoyed the elegant curve of the bird's neck. A strong story with a good technique. Buller's albatross in flight. My initial reaction to this image was to comment on possibly cropping the image. However, I began to appreciate the negative space surrounding the subject. The albatross is placed in a strong position in the upper right, flying into the image, and the shadow beneath is a dramatic reflection on the still, silky water. The bird appears slightly soft, but has a story that attracted me over time. Hypholoma bruneum greymouth. This image has been well composed with some negative space allowed on the left side of the composition for balance. The background is a soft green with a painterly feel. I can see a juvenile fungi at the base of the group, which tells us a little bit about the life cycle, although this area is slightly dark. The other 5 are evenly illuminated and arranged well. I would have loved to have seen a view of the gills of at least one of the fungi if a lower perspective had been possible, and this would have elevated this image to an honours. Listening for directions, endangered African wild dog, Lycaon pictus, missed the rest. The large sensitive ears are pointed forward as the African wild dog listens intently to the other members of the pack. Their large ears also help to keep them cool. They use teamwork and strategy to successfully hunt in packs, and together they can actually bring down a buffalo. They care for all members of their pack, including the elderly who can no longer hunt and are very social animals. A good story showing the environment with nice exposure and sharpness. Score 5, the sacred kingfisher with crab. This beautiful timed image is of a kingfisher tossing and swallowing a crab that it has taken back to a branch to devour. This technically competent image will most likely be the result of much time spent observing the natural behaviour of these birds. The even lighting has given the feathers of the kingfisher accurate colouring and good definition, and the background is a plain grey with no distractions. Well done, and a close contender for Best Picture. Score 5. Gabriella Mistral Nebula in Carina. An impressive view of a nebula, which is a huge cloud of gas which acts as a nursery for the birth of new stars. I can see a face in it, and learnt when I looked it up that this is how it received its name. It resembles a portrait of Gabriella Mistral, who won the Chilean Nobel Prize in Literature. A beautiful image which feels three-dimensional and rekindles my interest in the stars and astrophotography. Well done, as I know what patience is needed to record these shots successfully. Kia Nesta Notabalis. Good technical skills combine to produce a well-composed and well-presented portrait of this kia. I do question if you have been feeding this bird bread. Too many carbohydrates fill them up and discourage them from foraging for seeds and natural foods. Their health can suffer as a result. The light enhances the beautiful detail and colour in the feathers, and I enjoyed the close view of the eye, beak and foot. Well done. And best in show, Malaysian dead leaf mantis, Deroplatus lobata. I enjoyed the way these mantis displayed 2 different poses. They could be aliens direct from a Star Wars film. Their beautiful orange markings show up against the dark background where the green of the fern is softly visible. This provides some subtle texture and colour. This well-composed image impressed me with a clear, precise detail, vibrant colour and strong composition. Well done and best in show. That's your one. Oops. Oh, yep. Okay.
I'm very well with names, so. Yeah, thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, you got it. You can.
now we'll just do this. We'll wing it. Yep. Kay Miller for Silver Eye, Te Hau. Jan Bogue, Praying Mantis. Ron Willems, Crested Karakara with Squirrel. Sacred Kingfisher is Bonnie Street Camp. The Southern Crested Grebe, fighting for his mate, is Maxine Cooper. Very cool. And Joe Curtis found a pair of African ostriches somewhere. In Africa. And Neroli Keating found these damselflies. Tash Harris, South Island Robin. Hee-Chan Kim. That'll be hard to go back there next year for the right sky. Yeah. John Ben, Fur Seal Pup. It's okay, I'll sort it. Paul Willems, Karuru. Nicola Jackson. Thank you. Penelope McCall, Buller's Albatross. Janine Money. Karen McConkey, listening for directions. Dawn Kirk, Sacred Kingfisher. James Gluckman for the Mistral Nebula in Creta. And Carolyn Alcock for the Kia. And the lucky last, JK.
Thank you.
She wants to Okay. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah,
Would you like to?
Thank you, Diana, and thank you,
Thank you.
Nicola.
Thanks, Joe. Oh. Oh, thank you. Build up.
Yeah, if you want to. What amazing images. Thank you, you two, for putting that together. And great comments from the assessor too, which will help us develop our images even further. So let's look at this one. JK, would you mind telling us a little bit about this?
Yeah, natural history, especially those that are, active and movable, are quite difficult to catch. But these two are not. They are quite tame. Yeah, and it was found in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and yeah, I have taken this with a light, like I used to, but they are in diffused, so the lighting is easy to control. Often you find this thing in quite dark places. The one on the right, that's the behavior when someone is close by, because they feel that, they are going to be attacked. So that is the defense behavior. Yeah, defending behavior. Yeah.
Thank you, JK. They really are alien-like, aren't they?
Yeah.
Fantastic creatures. We've got a few minutes, so let's go back and see the other fives or honours. This is Carolyn. Would you like to tell us about this one? Eating his carbohydrates?
Well, it's popcorn actually. He pinched a bag of popcorn and then perched himself up on top of a log. It's taken at Willowbank, and I was just lucky that I was in the right place at the right time.
Thank you. Whose is the next one? James is not here, is he? Let's go back. Dawn's not here. I know she does spend a lot of time looking at those creatures. Karen's not here. Janine wasn't here either, is she? No. Neither is Penelope. We're getting a run of... Oh, Nicola, you can be lucky last. Where are you? Tell us about this one.
I'm in a Facebook group with the Waitaha bird lovers group, and so quite often they'll let it do call-outs of where birds are particularly in the Christchurch areas. And so this is a very regular visitor down in Ferrymead, and he will hang out wherever. And in this particular case, he was right down by the drain, and so he was fishing, and he's actually reasonably tame. You can get quite close to him. Although I still just use my 100-400 lens, but the drain was behind him, so it gave it the dark background. So just a nice, friendly little fellow, really. He's got he's got a definitive feather sticking out from one side, so you know he's him. So that's us. Thank you.
And he knows you're going to come back and visit another day. Yes. Well, it's great that you're all getting out there and seeing these creatures. And of course, as the assessor was saying, if you do a bit of homework and find out where they're going to be, know a bit about the nature of the animal or the plant, fungi, then you're more likely to pick up a really lovely image. So it just remains now for me to say thanks to everybody who's been involved this evening. The 7 o'clock session, the photo show case, thank you for setting that up, committee, and telling us a bit more, Ian, about it. Thanks for opening and the meet and greet, sound people up the back, projection down here, supper set up earlier on, and all of the people who were involved in setting tonight up. Thank you again. And we invite you back to next week's program, which we talked about earlier, and check your email for details. Drive safely home, and good night, everyone.